We have confirmed reports from U.S. officials that Russia is providing intelligence to Iran to help it target U.S. assets in the region. I'm sure this is something that does not please the president whatsoever. Has he spoken to Putin about it?
Well, look, I'll leave that to the president to answer himself. But what I will tell you, John, we don't comment on intelligence reports that are leaked to the press. Whether or not this happened, frankly, it does not really matter, because President Trump and the United States military are absolutely decimating the rogue Iranian terrorist regime.
Well, it does really matter, and this does matter, and it matters to people in the United States of America. The White House, though, that was the line throughout the weekend. Yeah. Even the president saying on Air Force One, well, basically, it doesn't matter. We do it to them, too. No, it doesn't work that way. When you go to war and you have Russia helping your enemy in that war target Americans, kill Americans, that matters. And this comes the same. This reporting came the same day that, for some reason, this White House decided to loosen sanctions on Russia. And it came the same week that the Ukrainians, who were actually helping us in this war, not targeting us. So just so people in the White House can understand why this matters, the Russians are helping the Iranians target Americans. That's on one side. On the other side, the Ukrainians are helping Americans with what they've learned, intercepting Iranian-made drones that were sent to their front line. So the Ukrainians are helping us in this war. Russia is trying to kill American troops. Yeah. It matters. Yeah. And Mika, the fact that this is still going on 10 years later, the fact that you still have these bizarre statements about Vladimir Putin targeting and trying to kill Americans, saying that doesn't matter, is a real problem. I guess people in the White House and the MAGA crowd can yell, Russia hoax, Russia hoax. Maybe that makes him feel better, but it doesn't change a central fact. Vladimir Putin and Russia, according to these reports, are helping Iran target America. Yeah. To kill American troops. And on the other side, Zelensky is actually helping us. And the White House is saying it doesn't matter. It matters. It matters a great deal. It matters to Americans. And it matters why, after 10 years, Donald Trump is still doing this, still claiming that Russia is winning on the front lines against the Ukrainians when they've had a savagely bad month, the worst month, the Russians, in 2 or 3 years. And yet they still, in the White House, keep spinning for Vladimir Putin, suggesting he's going to win this war. I've been hearing from the White House for a year now the Donbass is about to get into Russia's hand. It's not. It's not. Maybe it will one day, but the wishful thinking over the past year is ridiculous, while the Ukrainians over the past month have been picking up more Russian territory than any time since 2023.
There seems to be also an attempt to distract from these facts and what's really important here with kind of a grotesque tone out of the White House, like we've killed people, destruction, we've decimated them, kill, kill, kill. And from the Secretary of Defense, I can't say Secretary of War, can't do it, but I guess that's what they call it.
Not
but
what
there's
he is.
such it's grotesque, but it's got this bro culture.
It's the opposite. It's the opposite of having the bro culture. No, it's the opposite of that, though.
It's actually,
David Ignatius,
what's the word when you're covering for something?
They're sitting back, David, and they're letting Russia target Americans to kill Americans. And they're saying, it doesn't matter, we're so tough. And we know it does matter, and there's nothing tough about finding out that Russia is helping Iran target Americans to kill them. And this just kind of blow it off. Please help me. Give me some parallel where American president said it didn't matter that a country was helping another country target and kill Americans.
The only thing that you can imagine is that the White House recognizes that addressing this directly right now makes this war much more dangerous. If you decide that Russia is in fact your adversary, along with Iran. What are you going to do about it? But I think what you're describing, reports of Russian assistance to Iran, reports also that Iranian ships are leaving China carrying chemicals that are crucial for the Iranian war effort, tell us that as we start the second week, this war is getting more dangerous. The risk that it will lead to a broader confrontation growing in the United States, Russia, and China is increasing. I think that's one reason I'm beginning to hear talk, including from Israeli officials, about possible ways to achieve military goals without going even further down this really deadly road of political confrontation. Israelis are telling me last night, we are about to achieve our military objectives in Iran within the next several days. We don't need regime change in Iran to achieve our military goals. I'll be very curious whether the White House picks up that theme.
Two things here.
Yeah, the only problem with that, Jonathan Almira, is this, that you have, the only problem is you have the president saying we're going to get regime change. And then you have the president saying Khomeini's son is not an acceptable replacement. I'm just talking about the politics for Donald Trump, because I think the instinct would be to leave in the next week to 10 days. Tear up the military targets, say mission accomplished, come home, unlike George W. Bush. The problem is when the Iranians have been so defiant to Donald Trump in a way he's not used to, and actually appoint Khomeini's son, who in many ways, as David said, is even more militant than the father, it's hard to come home and say mission accomplished under that scenario. I want this mission accomplished. I mean, I made no secret throughout my adult life that this Iranian regime since 1979 has been the epicenter of terror. I'm just saying it's going to be more difficult for this president or any president to leave in a 2-week time frame, which I think was his original intention, when you have the new supreme ruler even more militant than the one who was killed the first night of the strikes.
Within the first hours of this war starting, many of us, the Washington or close Trump observers immediately began looking for, okay, where is his off-ramp? We know he prefers these one-and-done big strikes. He doesn't want to prolong conflict. He spoke out against them in the past. How does he declare victory and get out? It is hard to see right now, though, what that victory is. First of all, because they never really laid out their objectives at the start of the war. But now, Joe, as you say, perhaps even harder liner is in power. It's going to be very difficult to suggest that things have gotten better there in Iran in any way, perhaps other than some of its military assets being blown up. So there's that. Tamika's point about the bro culture, the Department of Defense is putting out these videos, like interspersed with like movie clips and like hard-hitting NFL action with scenes of war. It's grotesque and not how we've ever seen before. That's certainly that. Yes, grotesque coined here this morning by Ms. Brzezinski. But Katy, let's go back to the Russia bit for a moment, because it is, even for a decade of Donald Trump being deferential to Vladimir Putin every chance he gets, this is extraordinary. He was asked on Air Force One about this report that Russia's helping Iran target U.S. assets, and he said, and I'm paraphrasing just slightly, well, they, meaning Russia, said, we do it too, wouldn't they? Sort of drawing a moral equivalence. Very reminiscent of what he did on this show a decade or so ago when he suggested that Americans killed journalists and dissidents too, which, of course, Vladimir Putin does. We don't. And it also comes, Katy, at a moment where Trump, in his rhetoric, has gotten very critical of Zelensky for not coming to the table with a deal to end that war, once again claiming, with no evidence, Putin wants peace and Zelensky doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, this has been a war of, even in the short space of 10 days, already of unintended consequences. We went into this war with Donald Trump still being rude about Vladimir Zelensky, now needing America could well do with Ukrainian help in how to tackle those Iranian drones. You've got Russia, which has had a reprieve on some of its oil exports to India, if only for a month, in order to kind of take out some of the pressure on global oil prices. And at the same time, you have a whole load of American munitions being used up in the Gulf. You have more air defenses American air defenses being supplied to Gulf countries than have been supplied to Ukraine. That's going to hurt Ukraine's efforts against Russia. So this has global ramifications, clearly, what is happening in the region. I mean, I think that the problem with not having a clear entry strategy and therefore not a clear moment when you can call victory is that, let's say we have the regime in place, but David's reporting is right. The Israelis are pretty much finished with their list of military targets. What happens in 6 months if the Iranians start rebuilding? What happens in 2 years if the Iranians start rebuilding? What happens in 5 years if the Iranians start rebuilding? Do we just keep going back every time the Iranian regime decides to try to reconstitute something? The only way to really neutralize, my understanding is, the threat of Iran's nuclear program in particular is through negotiation. Now, maybe the thinking in the White House is, well, we obliterate their missiles and we bomb the heck out of them, and that forces them to negotiate. But there isn't much sign at the moment that the government that's been installed since the bombing began is in a mood to negotiate.